It is 9/23/2024. Level Up College Football Podcast, Fans First Sports Network, wherever you get your audio and video podcasts, live on YouTube today. Sitting back with my co-host, Sarah C., Andy P. in the building. We're going to chop it up and talk that college football. But remember, wherever you get your college football audio podcasts, Google, Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to them, make sure you swing on by and check out the Level Up College Football Podcast. To my co-host, what's cracking lacking? What's going on, Andy? What's going on with you, bro?
Came back, survived a college weekend up in Syracuse. That's why I got all the new orange gear, as Sarah and Big G were letting me know beforehand. Game wasn't the outcome that we wanted, but it was still a great time. Always good to get back up on the campus and watch a college football game in person. So I'll have to share with you guys afterwards. Shout out to Pete Sala. He's been at Syracuse for a very, very long time. Pete got me and my bachelor crew down on the field for warm-up, so we were right on the field watching all the Syracuse guys warm up. Had a really great time. Took care of us up there in Syracuse. So shout out to Pete Sala, the amazing people around Syracuse athletics who showed us a really good time.
Big facts. What's cracking, Sarah? What's going on with you this week? Uh-oh, we got an audio problem. Sarah about to get the big fine on them. Go ahead, Sarah.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, sorry, I hit something.
You're all right. Sarah, you know on the show, on the podcast, you get the big fine.
I know. I'm sorry. Whoopsie.
All right, go ahead.
All right. I said I didn't have as an exciting weekend as Andy, being able to go to a game or anything like that. But watched some really good football again this weekend. It's getting a little bit more top heavy now, but there's still some interesting little games and teams out there and exciting games to watch in those little mid-level ones. So I don't know. Always a good week to be able to watch football.
Man, Sarah, I'm so stuck right now. I'm drawn in to start watching some action. You know how that Mac, man, I'm telling you it, because it's all the way live football season now. So anything that drops off, I'm ready to go. Hey, man, before we get to the pod, before we get to the convo, thank for all you guys that's rocking with us over in the live chat. We see some of our faithful chat generals, JC, Tim, those people like that, man. We appreciate Aft and all the people that comes into the live chat. We appreciate you guys. But y'all know how we get out on the Level Up College Football Podcast. Man, we had a heck of a week, man. Andy, I remember, man, I thought about this when I was doing the little script thing, man. I said, man, me and Andy was talking about how trash week 3 was going to be, you know, as far as looking forward and getting the schedule. But, man, I'm telling you what, this weekend of college football was outstanding football. So, you know, we're going to do our little review, talk about what just went down in the last week, because y'all know we had six teams ranked 11 through 25, took L dogs. And we had a barn burner with them Colorado Buffaloes. So I'm going to throw it over to Andy first. Andy, your weekend review, what caught your eye? What just like, man, you was like, man, this was an outstanding game, man.
Yeah, I think that there was a lot of real different bright spots you can point to. I'm going to take the cop out and take that. The Tennessee-Oklahoma game was really interesting to me. Not because, you know, Oklahoma, you know, kind of dropped the ball there. Dylan Gabriel, there might be a quarterback controversy happening now in Norman. All those things are definitely worthy of being talked about. For me, the big knock on Tennessee under Josh Heupel has been that they are essentially what we used to consider Oregon. High-flying offense, but the minute the game gets ugly, the minute things get tough, that offense just can't operate at maximum efficiency, and they end up hurting the rest of the team. Now, what Heupel has done with this team is establish a defense. Like, my dad and I were watching the game. That was one of the best perks about going back home, was, you know, to watch with my dad, someone who loves college football, but not necessarily as tuned in as we are. But even he, as he was watching the game, was saying that Tennessee defensive line just looked physically bigger than Oklahoma, and we're shoving them around. And this is an Oklahoma team that has recruited at an SEC level for a long period of time. So we're in this position where we're looking at Tennessee. Their defensive line is one of the best in the country. Heupel and that offense took a really tough matchup and said, you know what? We're not going to try to throw the ball down the field all the time. We're going to grind this out. We're going to put the ball on the ground. We're going to lose both of our starting tackles going by the end of this game, and we're still going to dominate the trenches. Tennessee, to me, I don't know with the injuries that they have along the line if they can make the SEC championship game. It's really hard to have offensive line injuries and win that conference. However, I think that a fully healthy Tennessee is the second best team in the SEC conference, which is that is not a statement I thought I would say, but this team is really well coached to a level that you want to see after this.
Wait. Time out. Texas, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, Missouri.
Yeah.
And you got Tennessee number 2?
I'm going to put Texas at 1, Tennessee at 2, Georgia at 3. That's my SEC. Yeah. That's my SEC power rankings right now. Yeah. And I think it's because we now know 2 things about this Tennessee team. 1, they can beat you in a shootout, and they can beat you in a grinded out game. That is huge in order to survive the SEC. Number 2, they can beat you by rushing 4 and dropping everybody else back. And for a Georgia, for a Texas, for an Alabama, for an Ole Miss, if you can do that against those teams, man, we have seen that is a recipe for disaster, especially if you have to go into Neyland to play the game. Again, I might be drinking a little bit of Kool-Aid here, but I am in love with any team that has a dominant front 4 and can go on the road and win ugly. That is, I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, man. That is the way to my heart.
Yeah. You know how we get out. I'll go and listen, I'm going to leave Pittsburgh alone right now, man. It's college football. I got to stay locked, Andy, because I'll go down that road. But listen, man, you said put some respect on the Tennessee Volunteers name based on what you said. Sarah, I want to know, and Andy talking big yak about Tennessee. What you thinking of? Who's out there saying, listen, man, you need to put some respect on my name this week, man?
I think that they really, really showed a lot. I think that they were extremely impressive. And I agree with Andy when it comes to the 1 week, he's throwing how many touchdowns, rushing, all that kind of stuff. This week, it was just a pure defensive battle. And they came out and took the opportunities with what they had and were able to get into the end zone. And Oklahoma just kept, I don't even know what happened. I mean, they just kind of fell apart on that offensive side. And I don't think that they ever even thought that they could possibly get back. I mean, I know they tried, but it was definitely the defense on Tennessee that won that game 100%. Yeah. But I think it proved Nico is the real deal in the SEC. I don't know if I want to put them above Georgia just yet. I think after this weekend, I think that's going to prove a lot. I have my thoughts on that later. But I will definitely say that they are top 5 right now in college football, just the way that they are showing. And like you said, that defensive front 4, I mean, come on. But
can I say y'all talking strong? Yeah. Man, y'all talking strong about Tennessee, man. Go ahead. Who you got, Sarah?
I really was impressed by Utah. I thought that they pretty much just said that, this is our conference this year. And Oklahoma State just didn't have an answer. And the fact that they kept them to 42 rushing yards total is beyond me. Ollie Gordon hasn't had an explosive game yet, really. And it's interesting to see because I'm waiting to see if he is going to this year or if that hopeful of him coming and having this beautiful season, it's really gone away. With not having Rising, and Isaac Wilson was able to not make enough errors to lose that game, and he kept the pace, and that, the defense just kept Oklahoma State off, like 3 punt. That's all they were doing. And so I'm very happy to see that. I think Wilson definitely improved by the second half. He looked at the first half, had all his turnovers and everything. And one of the biggest things, they had 42 minutes of time of possession.
Yeah.
Big
facts.
it's going to be interesting at that Big 12 now after the loss with Kansas State and now BYU coming in. And it's getting a little bit more competitive at the bottom, but I think that they've really solidified their number one.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, this is going to pain me to say what I got to say, but I got to spit facts, man. I got to spit facts. Them boys in Ann Arbor ain't to be played with. I don't care what nobody say. I saw them live against Texas. And that team that played Texas is not the team that just played USC. No. They physically beat USC up. They beat them up defensively, offensively, and Michigan ain't nothing to be played with. I'm telling you right now, they ain't nothing. All these people that want to put them to bed, say that they're not going to do this and that, all they're going to continue to do is just add wrinkle after wrinkle after wrinkle to that offense. And I'm telling you right now, I'm about to hit y'all with a G-Stradamus. There's 2 freshmen that they're trying their best not to blow their redshirt season. But by the last 4 weeks, when the red shirt's over with, you can bank on them playing, which is going to add another dimension to this team. Their names is Jaden Davis, quarterback, and Jaden Matthews, running back. Those 2 kids are going to play. And I'm telling you right now, Michigan is not to be played with. It pains me to say it because I'm a diehard Buckeye, and I wanted to put them boys to bed. I was like, look, it's over. And I'm telling you right now, they beat USC down. They beat them down. So physically, they wasn't ready. And I'm telling y'all, out of the Pac-12 squads that came to the Big Ten, the only one that looked like a Big Ten team is USC. Oregon don't look like no Big Ten team. So if Michigan could punish USC like that, oh yeah, it's problems. It's problems. Michigan is not to be messed with. They're not to be played with. And this is coming from a diehard Buckeye. I'm telling you right now, they're not to be played with. So, that's just my thoughts. I want to see what y'all think about me siding with Michigan.
I mean, Big G, I'm not going to lie with you here. I wasn't as impressed, if only because USC has a history of choking. It's tough for me to get hyped about a win over USC from a coach that has routinely lost games like this before. What I will say that was interesting is that the quarterback experiment at Michigan seems to finally be settling on Alex Orji. I'm more excited that Sharon Moore and the coaching staff is settling into not a modern day single, wing T kind of offense, but they're putting Orji out there and they're saying, look, we're going to ask you to make some throws, but most of the time we're going to try to do a power run game with the quarterback involved in the running attack, which I do think is a tough look to prepare for. We've seen it in the past, like service academies, like, shout out to Navy here, who absolutely dropped the hammer on Memphis and basically dropped Memphis out of the playoff conversation. And
beat down.
We know what can happen with these service academies when you come in there with a run quarterback based scheme. So I'm not as high on you as Michigan, just because they also had some major injuries there. If Will Johnson's going to be missing an extended period of time, I'm not sure that defense can hold up on the back end as well as much as they'll need it to be. But I do think that the top of the Big Ten is clearly Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan is there to play spoiler.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. So listen, I just got to ask the question before we take our first commercial break. Who was the biggest winner? So you're saying Tennessee's your biggest winner. Sarah, you're saying Utah is your biggest winner. That's what y'all saying is your biggest winner?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you who the biggest winner is, in my opinion, Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes. They was not supposed to win that game. And I want to put a little asterisk beside it, because the deal is they weren't supposed to win 6 games. This gives Deion 3. I looked over their schedule and I was like, he got 3 more in him. So guess what's going to happen with the Colorado Buffaloes? He's going to win 6 games and they're going to go to a bowl game. It might be irrelevant and all whatever else. It's not the college football playoff, but he's got the program in the correct trajectory to make an impact because in my thinking, Prime's out of there at the end of the season, right? And I think he's Florida State bound. So if he can get him to a bowl game and do what he needs to do, hey, Deion and them was a big winner. And Shedeur Sanders might have just locked himself into being the number one quarterback picked off the board based on his play and that play he made. That was a huge winner to me. But I want to see what you guys are talking about with losers. Who was the biggest loser for the weekend? Sarah, I'm going to start with you. Who you got for the biggest loser?
Well, I'm going to go on the opposite side of the Michigan game and USC. And just like Andy was mentioning, they just can't seem to get past certain obstacles. And when they were, they looked great. And in the first half, I was like, oh, USC is like really seems to be on it. Their defense is playing really solid. But I felt almost bad for Miller Moss. I don't think that he's as bad as I think some people think. I think he's actually a little bit better than he is performing, which is why it makes it hard. And I just think that now when you look at that Big Ten, with Penn State, with Ohio State and Michigan, and then it's going to be interesting to see what happens this weekend with some of the other Big Ten games, especially the one for Penn State. So it just puts them too far down in that list. And I just don't see them getting into the playoffs. I see them probably staying ranked, but I just don't see them going into the 12 anymore.
Yeah.
So it was disappointing to see, but Michigan definitely knew what they were doing and solidified it. And I agree. I think that coaching staff is really starting to make it their own team, and they were making the right decisions at the right time and just looked so much more confident. And that defense played out of their mind. So it was definitely made Michigan look a lot better, made USC look a little bit more a little normal,
a little trashy. That's what we say around here. Got a little trash going on. Andy, who was your biggest loser over the weekend? Because there was some people that got smoked out there, man. They lost some ranking.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna take a little cop out here. You can talk about some individual teams. I'm gonna take group of 5 playoff hopefuls here because Northern Illinois took a loss at home to a Buffalo team that's not expected to go to a bowl this year. Memphis took a big L to a Service Academy game that we already talked about here. You're looking at now what was a lot of people were saying was going to be an incredibly competitive race for that last playoff spot. And all of a sudden now things are starting to look a lot shakier or we might just be handing it off to Boise like we expected. So again, I can running down the list. Washington State won, but they needed 2 overtimes to beat out a San Jose State team. App State got absolutely destroyed by South Alabama. South Florida got absolutely destroyed by Miami. Just all of these teams that we were talking about as, look, they could maybe sneak into the 12 seed if they get what they want. And it's just not gonna happen right now. So again, I said before the season, I really like Boise State to be your non-power 4 playoff representative, just because even though they did lose that game to Oregon, right now a close loss to Oregon looks better than any of these losses that these other teams have picked up now. I do think that that's kind of sad because I do think that an independent team from the MAC making the playoff would be good for college football. An independent team that we haven't heard of making the playoff would be great for college football. But not that Boise's a good story. Ashton Genty is for real, but we already saw what happened when they played playoff hopeful. And to just kind of put them back in the playoff with that loss of the resume, it's really going to kind of invalidate the rest of the group of 5, and teams are just going to say oh, well, they lost their biggest game that they played in the regular season. They're making in the playoff on a technicality. What do we expect from them?
Facts. I agree. I think the group of 5 took a big L. Now, for me, I'm just going to be honest. It was a coin flip. I didn't know if I was going to be in Lincoln, Nebraska, or I was going to be down there with Kansas State, man. because both of those teams was in position to not necessarily contend, but to put their stamp on the season to say, hey, look, we've arrived. And when I really started looking at it, and I went back and I looked at the game review and all whatever else, I got to go with Nebraska. I think Matt Rule was in position to be 7-0 by the time he faced Ohio State.
Yeah.
Based on his schedule and all whatever else. And now this is not a slight at Illinois. I'm not saying Illinois is a trash team, because I think they might have been one of our biggest winners that we didn't talk about, because they're 4-0 headed into Penn State. But I think that Matt Rule the moment was too big for him. It's not like he didn't have the game in hand. Dylan Raiola had almost 400 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. But it was just little certain plays, because, people said, well, there was the touchdown pass that was missed in the end zone. There was the missed field goal. Yeah, there was stuff like that happened. But there was just certain plays where on the rewind and watching the game, he got out-coached. And I was like, man, Matt Rule, man, you might have blew it, bro. You might have blew it. Now, will it make them come back and possibly be hungry? Will Dylan Raiola play even better? Because Dylan Raiola made a couple of bonehead plays too, like taking those sacks that he took in overtime that was just ridiculous, and some of the other things that he did. And I was like, man, what are you doing? He showed he was a freshman. But will he learn from it? Time will tell. But I think that Matt Rule and the Nebraska Cornhuskers was in position to do something big, and it just didn't happen. All right, y'all. We got off the winners and the losers. We talked about what happened last week. We're going to take a quick commercial break, pause for the cause, pay some bills around here on Fans First Sports Network. If you're watching us live, we'll be right back in a second. If you're listening to us, wherever you get your audio podcast, we'll be right back with the Level Up College Football Podcast. Andy P, Sarah C, and Big G in the building. And we're back with the Level Up College Football Podcast. Andy P, Sarah C in the building. Y'all, the live chat is jumping off over there. I even seen a couple of new people that I've never seen. I see Rob Lightfoot in the building, Tim Lyons in the building, Afton in the building, Mr. Woodside in the building. Who was the new guy I saw? I saw his name. He's there. Juan Diego. Hey, man, what's cracking-lacking? Good to see you in the chat, man. Jay Steed in the chat. We appreciate all you guys over there giving the comments, helping us push this content along, and we appreciate the chat generals. Y'all, we got to talk the new week, the beginning of Armageddon, right? Because from week 4 to week 7, we're going to find out who's the real deal in college football, right? So this is the beginning of the end. We got a heck of a slate this week talking college football. So we're going to start it off and kick it off right. Elimination game. Oklahoma State versus Kansas State. Number 20 versus number 23. Andy, you know how we get out on the Level Up podcast. Hit them with them big facts, bro, and let's go.
Yeah, this is a game that Vegas really likes Kansas State here. They have them by 6 points. I personally, got spoiler alert here. I kind of agree with Vegas for 2 main reasons. The first, that Kansas State BYU game was an absolute thorough beatdown by BYU. And I'm not trying to invalidate what BYU did, but we have seen time and time again, young quarterbacks, younger teams head out to Provo for a primetime night game, and things just kind of go awry. You have a 100-yard punt return on enough play. You have pick sixes. You have fumble recoveries. You have everything going wrong. Provo is just one of those college football environments that's really tough to win in. And Avery Johnson, to his credit, has not ever really struggled as a young quarterback. He hasn't had this game yet. And it was bound to happen at some point in time. Kansas State got it out of the way against Oklahoma State. On the flip, against BYU. On the flip side, Oklahoma State, I think that there is a serious problem right now with Oklahoma State and their inability to run the ball. Ollie Gordon right now we talked about it on last week's show. Ollie Gordon is still sitting at over 75% of his yards coming after contact. That is unacceptable from an O-line perspective. The passing attack is still very good. And so this becomes a question of, is the offensive line just incapable of run blocking, or is there something much deeper wrong with the game planning here? And I just don't think you can continue to play a full college football season with that level of inability to run the ball at the highest level, especially when you have the talent that they do, meaning that there's something fundamentally wrong in this rushing attack. And I just do not think that going on the road to Kansas State is an environment where you can survive without that consistent rushing attack.
Feeling it, bro. Feeling it. Sarah, can Avery Johnson come back and make a comeback this week? What are you feeling about Kansas State and Oklahoma State?
I actually agree with a lot of what Andy said. I think there's just a lot of issues on Oklahoma State. I even think that they have a little bit of a quarterback issue. The fact that they even had to switch for that minor amount of time. I mean, Pringle didn't look good, but he definitely, made everyone kind of think like, oh, we might have an issue. I think the rushing attack is a huge issue. Like Ollie Gordon was a Heisman hopeful at the beginning of the season. Like what happened to him? Why are they not getting him like out of that hole? Like he is just not getting the yards, and that 100% has to do with the offensive line. And if you want to compete in any of these top conferences, you need to have strong lines. That is what's going to get you into the playoffs and actually possibly win, because these top schools have that. And that's the only way that I could see either of these schools really even having a chance against any of these top numbered schools. I think Avery Johnson he's showing his immaturity. And it's just been a little bit more up and down. So I think that though they really do have a great rushing attack between him and their running back. And Oklahoma State allowed 200 yards rushing last week. So like they have a problem on both of those sides, and that could really, really, really put a damper into that game and really make Kansas State blow up. I don't have them winning by super a lot, but I definitely see them taking this.
Hey, so listen, I think that the Kansas State coach, Coach Jerome, man, is, for lack of better words, I think he's pissed off. And I think it's going to show this week when Oklahoma State comes to Kansas State. This guy is a winning coach, man. He's got 45 wins in a little short time period, replacing a legend at Kansas State University. And yeah, I know Avery is a young guy. I know that. But I think that they have enough maturity on the Kansas State team that when it comes down and you got to start playing hat on hat, man on man, ball on ball, playing what you need to do concerning college football, I just think that they're going to handle their business down there at Kansas State. So I'm going to kick it off, and I'm going to say right off the bat, Kansas State going to blow Oklahoma State out. Give me Kansas State 38, Oklahoma State 17. They're going to dust them off like they stole something. That's what I'm my pick this week. Sarah, you're picking score for the game.
So I went a little bit closer just because of the fact that this is a conference game, and it pretty much is going to tell you who is probably going to be that second team in the Big 12. So I went Kansas State winning, but only 27-24.
27-24 in a close one. Andy, who you got this week with that score, bro?
Yeah, I really like where Sarah's head's at here. I think Kansas State is a good team. I think Oklahoma State is a mediocre team that we have slightly we overrated, and they're not using the talent appropriately. I think that this game is going to end up being a one-score game, but I'm going to give Kansas State the touchdown here. I think Kansas State wins this one 30-23, but a lot of those 23 points come in the second half after Kansas State is playing very conservative football.
Yeah. So I feel that they're trying to protect the quarterback. It makes sense. But I just think versus protecting, they're going to let him loose. That's why I'm calling for Kansas State to dust them off. All right, we're going to go to game 2. And, Tim, this is for Tim Lyons. Tim, we didn't think this game was going to be worth a nickel. I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to let you inside of some of our private conversation. We just didn't see it cracking. Louisville done showed up and showed out, man. And now done jumped Notre Dame in the rankings for the Associated Press and going to invade South Bend, Indiana. Number 15, Louisville. Number 16, Notre Dame. Andy, man, what you got, bro, this week for the matchup?
This is a really interesting game because I've been pretty soft on Louisville all season long. I thought they were going to take a step back after last year's surprise run to the ACC championship, and here they are as one of the top ranked. They're the second highest ranked ACC team right now. Just things that you didn't expect to say this deep into the season, and the more interesting part is that this is a matchup of two teams that SP Plus, my preferred metric, available on ESPN behind the ESPN Plus subscription paywall. SP Plus says these two teams are underrated. They have Notre Dame ranked as the 12th best team in the country, or the 11th best team in the country, and Louisville ranked as the 12th best team in the country. And so obviously the AP poll does not reflect those rankings, but it does show that this game is going to be very tight. I don't like how high the line is. I think people are looking at last year's game and saying that Notre Dame's going to come out motivated, but we've seen right now that there's still something wrong with Riley Leonard. I don't love the way that Notre Dame has leveraged him so far. They were really struggling to start off against that Miami of Ohio game, another team that in the MAC. Miami's 0-3 to start the year, and and they're 0-2 in conference. They're not a good MAC team right now, and Ohio and Notre Dame's slow start makes me think that this is gonna be a bit of a rock fight of a game, and I think it's gonna be a lot closer than a touchdown, and I don't think that we're gonna come away from this game saying anything really different about Notre Dame. They're still a team with good defense. They're still a team with some serious issues at the quarterback position.
I like it. I like the facts. Sarah, what you thinking between the Fighting Irish and them Louisville Cardinals?
So I agree that I think Riley Leonard still has a lot of question marks. He did throw, though, for his first touchdown, which was a nice little thing to see. Good for him. But it's mostly been only rushing. I think Louisville is extremely efficient on offense. They don't throw a lot of balls, but their accuracy is like super, super great. When you were talking about the SP Plus rankings, I also was looking at the Football Power Index numbers, and Louisville and Notre Dame are both in the top. Notre Dame is actually considered 9 in the FPI, and Louisville is 11. Louisville, though, has only allowed 11 points against average. I think that their defense is going to give a lot of trouble for Riley Leonard, and he doesn't really have that second option throwing yet. And that's going to be pretty much the thing that is going to be Notre Dame's downfall. I think that they definitely have the defense, like Andy said, but if your quarterback cannot even throw like Louisville's, I mean, he was 13 for 19 passing attempts is not a lot. It doesn't matter what league, what conference, anything. And he was able to be efficient, and Riley just doesn't have that. And it just scares me a little bit in that game for him. So I think Louisville's going to probably win pretty big. I went 36. I still think Notre Dame's going to get a couple rushing touchdowns, but I said 36-24.
Ooh, so wow, Sarah picked it right off the back. She said the Louisville Cardinal about the Bustin' Fighting Irish in the grill. Hey, so listen, Tyler Shaw is the real deal, y'all. 850 yards passing, 8 touchdowns, no picks. He gets the ball out of his hands real fast, and he's got a plethora of wide receivers that he can throw the ball to. What scares me about Louisville is their inability to necessarily run the ball. I think their leading rushers got like 150 yards rushing on the season. They got a couple of other guys. It's like that 150 mark, 140 mark, but they haven't showed that they can run the ball consistently. And what we know about Louisville from the past is that when Louisville has a running back to pair with a quarterback and they just throw it all over the yard, they're dangerous. They haven't showed that they got that yet this season. So going into Notre Dame, because let's be honest, the truth of Notre Dame is their defense. They have at least 6 NFL players on their current defense, current roster right now. Probably maybe 1 or 2 first-round NFL draft picks, including that corner that I just love. So I'm like, does their strength match up with their strength? Conversely, like you guys said, who's throwing the ball? Who's Leonard throwing the ball to? Because I can't name a top Notre Dame wide receiver. I can't even, not even in the conversation as a guy who's a playmaker. So I'm like, I don't know. So it's a toss-up for me. Sarah, we got your score. Andy, let me get your score, dog. What you got?
I really don't want to pick Notre Dame here, but all the numbers that I use still really like Notre Dame as a good team. I just think that this game's going to be close and ugly in a way that it doesn't make us feel good about either team. So I'm going to go Notre Dame wins this one 24-19. It's just a real ugly game. Louisville gets a safety or some weird score in there. But I do think that Notre Dame is still the better team. I want to have faith that we see a little bit more of the team that Texas A&M rather than the team that lost to Northern Illinois and struggled with Miami of Ohio.
Yeah. My heart is telling me that Notre Dame is going to win, just because it's at night, it's at Notre Dame. It's going to get ugly. The weather's talking about being inclement. It might be a lot of rain, so they're not might not be able to throw the ball over the yard. And I just don't think that Louisville can just line up and run the football. So I think that Notre Dame's going to play into their strength. I got Notre Dame winning 17-14, 17-13 in a low-scoring battle, because I think the TOP, time of possession, is going to be huge in this game. And I look for Notre Dame to try to double up on Louisville. So I think a big game. Give me Notre Dame to win, man. All right, we got one more game before the commercial break. I sent y'all the picture this week. I showed y'all them uniforms the University of Central Florida is going to rock against the Colorado Buffaloes coming to town. And y'all, I'm just saying, the winner of this game joins the top 25. I don't know. I might be a G-Stradamus predictor, but I think the winner of this game jumps into the top 25. And those uniforms, if you guys haven't seen them, UCF's uniforms are fire, right? So, Andy, man, Colorado and UCF, man, what's going on, bro?
Yeah, this is one where you have a team that numbers really kind of like as a sleeper against a team that numbers really don't like. I'll give you a hint. Colorado is the team that numbers really don't like because they don't run an efficient offense, and their defense continues to struggle to stop the basics. I think that the challenge with this Colorado team is that Travis Hunter is one of one, unlike anything that we have seen, anything that we will see in college football. And you have to appreciate what he is outside of the rest of the team. Because Colorado is an air raid team that refuses to run the ball. They're incredibly one-dimensional, and they rely on Travis Hunter to carry that offense. And he's doing so to the best of his abilities. But you saw that if you watch that game against Baylor, that Hail Mary pass, incredible throw by Shador, incredible catch downfield. Baylor was also not a prevent defense. They were playing that play straight up like a pass coverage, and that's how Colorado was able to create the overload on the near side of the field. So that's just some bad coaching by Baylor to bail out Colorado in that game. Meanwhile, UCF has very quietly been establishing itself as a true Big 12 power. They took the jump last year knowing that they were going to get throttled and knowing that they needed to figure out where the physicality was lacking on their roster. So they could go into the portal and build a much more intelligent Power 5 or Power 4 roster this year. They already handled the TCU team. That win's not looking as great right now, but they're undefeated. And most importantly, SP Plus thinks that their offense is a top 20 offense. That, to me, spells trouble for a Colorado defense that is yet to stop a nosebleed this season.
Got you. Sarah, can Deion pull it off again? Or is it just too much going on down there at the University of Central Florida?
I think there's just way too much going on down in Central Florida. They already have, you said the rankings number 20th defense. They have the number 3 total offense, in 3 games. They have 226 plays. They have 1,712 yards already, and they're averaging 7.58 yards per play. And then their running back already has 448 yards rushing, and that is going to be what they're going to use. It's just going to be them time of possession, battle on the ground, just pummeling Colorado. I mean, we saw what happened to them just 2 weeks ago. It's not like, this week was that big of a step forward. Yeah, they won in overtime against Baylor, but they haven't looked great in the weeks prior, not 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I just think that they don't have enough dimensions on that team just yet. I think that, like you said, Travis Hunter is one of one. He is the best player in college football, in my opinion, right now. I think he is just the biggest difference maker. And if anything's going to make a difference in this game, it will be him. It will be him on both sides of the ball, because that's what he does. Look at what he was the reason that they won that game this past week. And he is going to be the reason that they could possibly pull this off. I just don't see them being able to stop this UCF offense. They are just lights out, and they want to keep proving that they can be lights out. And especially with those beautiful uniforms, they're going to look amazing.
That's some of the best college football uniforms I've ever seen in my whole life. I mean, that was just, whoever designed that was like a genius, right? But I'm just going to be honest, y'all. KJ Jefferson is a dog. RJ Harvey is a dog. Both of these guys, RJ Harvey, for you guys that don't know, is UCF running back. KJ Jefferson is the quarterback for UCF. They're dogs. No ifs, ands, buts about it. But what scares me about UCF is they only have one sack on the season. Only one. So that's telling me they can't apply pressure. What's Colorado's strength? Air raid. They're going to throw the ball all over the yard. So if you can't get to Shador, what's going to happen? He's going to light you up like a Christmas tree. So that's why I'm like, man, this is going to be a shootout. I think this game could go 40s or 50s. So I'm going to swing it to Andy. What score you got, bro?
I don't disagree with you when it comes to the shootout comment. That was one of the things that I think you're going to be why this game was chosen as the game day game, because this is going to be a high scoring affair. However, I do think that part of the UCF pressure problem is less about their team and more about who they've faced so far. I'm going to continue to roll with the Citronauts. I know that they want to be called the Knights, but I'll always have a favor for anybody that had orange in their mascot at one point in time. Give me UCF 42-31.
Wow. Sarah, what you got? What's your score?
I'm going with the same thing. It's going to be a high-scoring game. I think that's just the strengths on both sides. You might see a lot of at air raid. I have UCF 45, Colorado 35. So I think that they're going to cover, but not pull off the win.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid again. I'm back on the Colorado train. Give me the Colorado Buffaloes to win this game. 49-48 against UCF. Shador has the ball late, and him and Travis Hunter pull off a miracle. I just think that UCF can't get to Shador. And if they can't get to him, he's going to light you up. So, listen, I said at the preference, 6 games for the Buffs. I think this is game 4. Give me Colorado to win 49-48. All right, y'all, we got to take another quick commercial break. Pause for the cause. If you're watching us live on YouTube, we'll be right back. If you're listening to us, wherever you get your audio podcasts, Google, Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to audio podcasts, we'll be right back with the Level Up Podcast crew live on Fans First Sports Network. And we're back with the Level Up College Football Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, sitting in the basement, sitting in the dungeon, Andy P, Big G, talking that yak about college football. And, yo, we got a game that I know none of us seen coming, but could decide who's going to play in the Big Ten championship game this week. Penn State hosts the number 9 ranked Penn State Nittany Lions. Hosts the fighting or flying or whatever you want to call them, Illini out there who's getting busy and is coming into this game ranked 4-0, ranked number 19 in the country. Andy, talk to me, bro. Illinois versus Penn State.
This is a really interesting game for me because I think Illinois is a team where the numbers aren't properly evaluating them because it's what they're doing is a scheme thing. This isn't necessarily based off of previous production from last year's team. This isn't really about recruiting. This is just a really excellent coaching job. This is yet another team. Big G, you and I talked about this in the offseason. We saw more and more teams in the Big Ten and the SEC load up with experienced coordinators and experienced player position coaches. Illinois under Brett Bielema did that as well. And the offense is just humming. It's super efficient. The defense is always going to be nasty under Big Bert. And I just like that this Illinois team took care of business against Nebraska in a hostile environment. My only thing is that they have to do it again. And I'm going to tell you what, Penn State's defense might be slept on if that's even possible. I know a certain co-host of this podcast said that another team in the Big Ten might have the best defense in the country here. That
would be me. Go ahead.
But what I will say is that I do think that Penn State has a legitimate challenge for best defense in the Big Ten right now. They are just absolutely dominating the box. They are absolutely stifling opponents' run games. In order to beat them, you got to get the ball out quickly or you got to run a stretch run attack. I'm really interested to see how Illinois chooses to attack Penn State. My guess is that they're going to try to go with more of a horizontal outside run game here, but it's going to be a fascinating schematic attack for Illinois' offense here, which has done a great job of attacking defense's weaknesses through their first 3 games of the season.
Love it, man. Sarah, what you like about Penn State? Because Andy said put some respect on their name. He said put some respect on it. So do you like Illinois or do you like Penn State in this game?
I am a little underwhelmed a little bit still with Illinois, and Penn State definitely defense is they're both sides of their defenses. Both teams have just very powerful defenses. They're not letting up a lot of points. We just saw Illinois' defense, just put so much pressure on Raiola, even though he did still have a somewhat successful outing. But when he pushed, they lost so much field possession in that game that I feel like that is the reason why Illinois was able to pull off that win. I just think it's going to come down to offensive efficiency, which they both seem to have right now. And it's going to be on which defense can finally kind of knock that quarterback off their, tilt and actually get some pressure on one of them. And I think one of them is going to come down and make a mistake in the end. And that's going to be what ends up winning the game. I think that Illinois has a chance to upset Penn State, but it's going to be a prove-it game for both of them because they haven't really had a lot of competition. I think Illinois had a little bit more than Penn State's seen so far this season. So this is Penn State's true prove-it game, and Illinois needs to prove it in this Big Ten, or they're going to just end up at the mid, not really battling for anything by the end of the season. So,
and she said straight mid. straight mid. James Franklin shooting this normal at the mid. I feel it, man. So listen, people ain't talking about this, and I mean this wholeheartedly. Luke Altmaier could win first team all Big Ten quarterback. The kid's got 900 yards passing, basically 800, I think 862, 863, 10 touchdowns, no picks. Right? Between him, Dalen Gabriel, Will Howard, Drew Aller, who you picking? So I think when you start talking about quarterback play, it's even. Just look at the running back play. I think the names is known in Penn State, but efficiency is how Illinois runs the ball. Same difference with defense. I think the defense, the names are in Penn State, but how to actually line up and stop a guy, Now, is Drew Aller better than Dylan Raiola? Probably. But he hasn't shown it. especially in big games. I've seen him lay egg after egg after egg. And I just think that Illinois got something cooking over there. Dangerous, dangerous team. But before I make my pick, I'm gonna let the floor go. I'm gonna let Sarah go first. Sarah, what's your score and who you got in the game?
So I can't believe I'm actually doing this, but I'm picking Penn State. I think that because these defenses can be so stifling, I don't think it's going to be a super, super high scoring game. I think because of the efficiency on both of these offenses, we're going to see a couple touchdowns, but I don't see this being super high scoring. I don't know if I can really even think of Penn State winning by that much because I feel like Illinois' defense is going to give that fight. And like you said, I mean, we haven't seen anything proven out of Aller yet. So it's going to be an interesting game to see. So I actually went with Penn State 27 and Illinois 24. So I think it's going to be a lot closer. I went with just a little bit over the over, but by very little.
Got it. Andy, who you got, bro?
Yeah, I think that this is going to be the proven game for this new look Penn State offense. They've put up a lot of points. Allers look good. The scheme involves a lot of horizontal movement and pre-snap movement in order to create confusion to make easy throws for Aller. That can work. And we've seen it work at the highest levels. Nick Foles is a Super Bowl, for God's sake. Yeah. But in games like this, where you're going up against a good coach and physicality is going to be such a big part of the game, I do think it's going to be interesting to see if Illinois can slow down any bit of this Penn State team. But I'm going to lean on the numbers here. I agree with them. I think Penn State is substantially better than Illinois. I think that Penn State is probably the second best team in the Big Ten, which is really hard for me to say, but like it's Ohio State and everybody else. And I think Penn State is the best of everybody else. I'm going to take Penn State to win this one in a blowout. 35-13, Penn State.
Ooh. Boy, listen, man. I got to pull the respect sign out one more time. Y'all going to put some respect in them Illinois flying Illini and fighting Illini. I'm telling you right now you're going to. And guess what I'm going to do? Give me Illinois to win the game. 28-24 at Penn State. Get them boys up out of here early and often. And James Franklin, the doors are going to be looking at you, bro. Brett Venables is a great coach, and he's going to outcoach you, and he's going to show you that Illinois is the real deal. Give me Illinois to beat them boys, man. Get Penn State up out of here, man. All right? So, ladies and gentlemen, we got the game of the week. Matter of fact, could be the game of the season. We got number 2, Georgia Bulldogs, who look big trash against the University of Kentucky, going down to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Right? Alabama got weapons, y'all. Georgia looks mediocre. Sarah, what you like? Who you like?
I mean, I think this is actually like there's a lot of big conference prove-it games. I think this week it's really actually becoming quite an exciting early part of the season still. I mean, we're only going into week 5. I was just looking at some of the stats from the past years. I mean, these teams, they actually very rarely ever meet during the regular season. It's always on a neutral field. So that definitely is going to make it even more interesting. Georgia is 2-8 against Bama. And the last time that they met was in the SEC final. And then they haven't even met in a non-championship game in 4 years. So that's going to be interesting to see. I think that, Smart definitely has a little bit more of that better coaching on his side than Kalen DeBoer, just because we haven't seen Kalen DeBoer long enough in the SEC yet. I think it's going to be a super, super close game. I mean, again, you have 2 quarterbacks that are extremely efficient. They don't have any interceptions right now. So it's going to be, again, I think down to the wire, and it's going to be on who makes the biggest mistake. Bama's defense, they're both in offense, ranked number 6. Like, I was shocked to see that what this is coming down to. I just, like I said, whoever gets the turnover, more errors, is going to win this game. And I have it being a close one. So I'll give that in a minute.
Got you. Andy, man, listen, when we started doing the schedule, when we did the preseason thing going on with me and you, we talked about this, we circled this game, right? Like we were like, man, this right here is the game that's going to be the game. So I want to know what you got brewing concerning Alabama and Georgia.
This is a game where the teams are just so good and the teams are so even, and there's not a clear mismatch here. Like the interior of Georgia's line matches up really well with the interior of Alabama's defensive line and vice versa. There's not really any exploit to be had. So when you have a situation like this, it always comes down to which team has the bigger playmaker, which player has the more explosive player. And for me, on paper, you're looking at a Georgia team whose explosiveness is in the backfield. That backfield of is ETN obviously leads the way, but they've shown that they have multiple running backs in that backfield that can do change of pace and can bring explosion to the game. So for me, it's going to be, can Georgia get those backs involved in the game? On the Alabama side, we know what Jalen Milroe is. I think he and Carson Beck are two of the best quarterbacks in the country right now, but who are they throwing to? And for me, Ryan Williams has a chance to do something really special here. Ryan Williams is the 17-year-old true freshman, already at 285 yards, 4 touchdowns on the season. He is that deep vertical threat that can stretch a game. And Georgia is going to challenge him by being physical, one-on-one, man-to-man on the outside. Can Williams win that one-on-one matchup and force Georgia's defense to have to adjust for him? Will they have to shade safeties? Will they have to move into more zone looks in order to prevent him from getting easy pitches and catches? Those are the kinds of things that when one of these teams can get the other defense to react instead of dictate turns, that was the difference in last year's SEC championship game. Alabama made the Georgia defense react, and that was the biggest difference. I think that's going to be the key to the game here, and Williams is the best shot that Alabama has to make that happen in this game.
Can you hear him?
Oh, Big G, I think we lost your mic, man. You're about to get fined, man.
I got the big fine because I had the mic muted. So I get the big fine. So, Andy, I don't disagree with you. I think Ryan Williams, man, the kid that played wide receiver, he's him. Wingo, the kid down in Texas, Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State University, and Williams, they're absolutely top 10 players when they come out of the draft. They're really all that. They're him. But I want to point something out about what I know and what I've seen, because I went back and I sat down on the Alabama team, right? Impressed with Milroe, impressed with the wide receiving core, impressed with the running backs, but more impressed with the defense. Listen, when Alabama is Alabama, the defense is the defense. And them boys are some dogs. I mean, I'm talking about they got 7 sacks. They have 21 quarterback pressures with 7 sacks already in this season. And I'm like, wait a minute, man. Do they got Will Anderson type run guys over there on defense? So I'm gonna give y'all a couple of names that I know this dogs. I had to write them down. His name is Tim Keelan III, 6'2", 326-pound defensive tackle that's already got 2.5 sacks on the season. So that's telling me they're getting pressure up the middle, let alone the 7. Right? They got another dog that I want to tell you about that I watched him. I seen him on film. I was like, man, yeah, he's a dog. His name is Quinn Robinson, linebacker. Q Robinson, linebacker, dog, 6'5", 241, outside linebacker, dog. He's coming for you. So, Bama got those guys. They always got speed. They always got back end. But when Bama's Bama, they hunt the opposing team's quarterback. I don't think Beck is going to have the protection or the time to do what he got to do. So I love Bama's offense. I think it's going to be just a fight. But Alabama's going hunting, man. They're going, and they had a week off to prepare. Yeah. Sarah, what's your score for this game?
They both had a week off to prepare, so that's even what makes it more interesting.
Big facts.
But I went with a very low-scoring, close game. I still think that Georgia is a little bit better. But like I said, I mean, it could turn around. It could be the other way in the end, but I still see it being low scoring. I did Georgia 14-10 because I just think that one of those defenses is going to get a major error for the other side, and that's going to be what ends up winning this game. 100%.
Like it. Andy, your score, bro.
Yeah, I am sitting here having a real debate of is the defense going to win out or is the offense going to win out? But I think that we consistently see the defense win out here. I agree with everything that everybody said here. I think that Georgia is let me rephrase this. If Kellen DeBoer had a different start to the season, I would feel so confident in Georgia. But that Alabama machine is still humming, and they still are riding high off of last year's team. They still seem to be real hungry going after the national championship. I think Georgia gets Alabama in the SEC title game if they can get to that point. But Georgia's got a gauntlet of a schedule happening here. So losing this game might start knocking Georgia out of the playoff contention just because of who they have to go play. I'm gonna say let's keep things interesting here. I think Bama pulls the upset. I think Bama wins this one 20-17, and it ends up being an all-time classic down in Alabama.
I like it. So I used to hate Nick Saban. And why I hated him is because he won. And because he had a machine. And they just kept reloading and kept reloading. Well, I thought they were going to fall off, and they didn't. Matter of fact, they reloaded. And they loaded across the board. They're at home. They're in Tuscaloosa. Bama going to smoke them boys. And matter of fact, Bama, this game for Bama will catapult them to the SEC championship game.
Wow.
Give me Bama 31-17 against Georgia. And Jalen Milroe now moves to the front of the pack of the Heisman Trophy hopefuls for the 2024 football season. That's my pick for Bama. All right, y'all. We to the end of the show. We had our picks. We had our chatter. We had our talk. Great show. Final thoughts from you two, man, before we get out of here. Sarah, I'm going to start with you first.
I think that, we're really starting to get these really interesting conference games. It's going to be super, super amazing. There was just a lot of great play this past week. So I'm extremely impressed by some of these teams that were able to pull off some of these wins. I'm excited about a couple other, even like littler games. Chaos, though, in the 5 is going to get even more interesting, I think, because who knows who's going to be there next week. I think, it's a legit Boise State, but it just seems that it's going in a rotation right now. There doesn't seem to be a consistency right now. So I'm really, really excited to see how that's going to come to fruition. So it's really, really exciting time. And every week I'm just excited for so many different games.
Big facts. Andy P, man, what you got going on and what you like, man, as we get up on out of the show, bro?
Game of the week that we didn't talk about here. Late night, Saturday night. Washington State has to head to Boise, who's now in 25. We talked about the G5 playoff. This is a G5 elimination spot game. Washington State loses this one. Boise controls their own destiny. It's in Boise, so it'll be on the Smurf turf. I think that is we got some crazy Pac-12 after dark action. It's back. that game, if you're looking for a late night chaos game, I think that game is going to be it. I'm really excited for some late night Pac-12 action.
Man, I'm down. Andy, man, you was reading my mind because I promised you I was going to talk about that game, man. I promise you. The other game that I was going to talk about, did I go the wrong week? No, I got the right week. Was Clemson versus Stanford. I think that Clemson versus Stanford game going to be a game. And y'all, ladies and gentlemen, the Stanford Cardinal for real. They for real. That number 13 Andy. That number 13 wide receiver they got is a dog. He's a dog. I can't even call the kid's name, but he's a dog. He's a dog. 13 is a dog, and their quarterback is a dog. So Stanford might mess around and be playing in the ACC championship game. Wouldn't that be something? West Coast Stanford plays in the ACC championship game. So I like that Stanford and Clemson game for sure this week. All right, y'all. We out of here. Thank y'all for rocking with us this week on Fans First Sports Network, Level Up College Football Podcast. Make sure you follow Andy P and me anywhere where you can get college football. Thank you, Sarah, for rocking with us this week, bringing your knowledge and information. Thank everybody in the live chat for getting with us, man. We appreciate y'all. Big show this week. We'll check y'all next week on the Level Up College Football Podcast on Fans First Sports Network.